Hello traders, this is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku wrap-up for the week ending February 17th, 2017. Double 17s. I wanted to just apologize for not doing a video last week. I just got too busy, and a lot of times I try to do it on Monday or Tuesday, but I just couldn't fit it in. So I apologize. And today is Monday the 20th. It's President's Day today. And it's really nice to have an extra day off, although the futures market was trading this morning. There's actually nothing trading right now. So for those of you who trade futures, you know that we only really have like an hour off a day or thereabouts, but we have to sleep, of course. Anyway, let's get started with the ES. We note that just one other note is that since we did have some trading going on last night and this morning, the new weekly candle is already open. These little tiny new candles are the weekly candles. So the analysis I'm going to be talking about is from last week, which is the larger candle. And let me zoom in a little bit. So you can see it's very obvious. ES is still in a very strong uptrend and bullish in all ways Ichimoku. We note that the Tenkan-sen is pointing up and the Kijun-sen is pointing up. We have a very nice rising cloud. There's no reason to think that this market can't go higher. You note that I've been talking about this every week, that we did have this pretty long period of consolidation where the cloud was sort of flattish to rising, and then when the cloud became steepening in its ascent, we got this breakout higher. So it's important to pay attention to the fact that since Ichimoku is a predictive method of analysis, we do have the luxury of having the cloud drawn out ahead of us for 26 weeks, so we know exactly, well, not exactly, but we do have some clue as to what might happen in the next 26 weeks. There aren't too many other methods of technical analysis that can provide that, which is one of the reasons that I love Ichimoku. But you notice that we have this flat cloud, rectangular shaped cloud, pretty thick cloud coming into, from the beginning of March until into May. So this suggests that we could have some sideways price action for that period of time, and maybe a little bit of a pullback as the cloud descends here, and then back to the races. Of course, that's not necessarily what will happen. The cloud isn't the only thing that dictates price action, of course. So if we did have a pullback, we could get a pullback all the way to the Tenkan-sen. It's important to note, overbought here. We see this red area in the RSI suggesting or telling that we are overbought. Let's look for the last time that happened and see what happened. So last time that happened was back here in 2014. And there's a few incidences of this happening, but let's just look at the last one. So last time we were overbought, we continued sideways, working off the overbought sideways for a while. Then we had a pretty significant drop for a couple of weeks as the RSI condition continued to get less overbought, and then we continue higher with this nice outbreak. So basically we came down and tested the cloud. I feel like I remember that like it was yesterday. It was like 4 years ago. So the fact that we're overbought suggests that we could get a pullback at some point. Maybe not this week, maybe next week, but a pullback to the Tenkan-sen would be really healthy at this point. Some sideways action and a pullback to the Tenkan-sen. The Tenkan-sen is currently at 2292.38, so that's really that's only like 60 points or thereabouts. So that's really not a significant pullback to worry too much about as far in the context of this larger uptrend. I'm not sure if that would be enough to work off the overbought condition. We can only wait and see. So let's carry on. I'm getting a little long-winded due to the fact that I've had a nice refreshing day off of not even looking at screens today. Let's look at the Russell. Russell has been flagging sideways for a while and got a kind of a more gentle breakout to the upside. We note that the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen are both flat on the Russell, suggesting that price could be attracted back towards them whenever the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen are flat. We're looking for more sideways action than upside momentum. So we could continue sideways again before we break in either direction on the Russell. Let's look at the NASDAQ. Doesn't matter if I'm a little long-winded because you guys have a little extra time, right? NASDAQ is looking full-on bullish. You know, last week's candle was extremely bullish with close on the high. Note that the Tenkan-sen has flattened out a little bit from this, you know, very steep upward tilt. So it's flattening a little bit, as we are also quite overbought on the RSI as well on the NASDAQ. So keep an eye on the Tenkan-sen. When it does go flat, we can look for the potential for a retracement towards the Tenkan-sen, but everything is looking pretty bullish. We have the same cloud flattening out for the same period of time for like March through, actually this extends even into like the middle of June on the NASDAQ, as far as looking for sideways, potential for sideways action. Let's look at the Dow. Dow, after moving sideways for several weeks, put in the last month or so extremely bullish uptrend. Last week closing very close to the highs. We do have the Tenkan-sen flattening out. We've been overbought on the RSI for the Dow for quite a while now, getting really overbought at this point. So it would be healthy to get some more sideways or downside for the Dow. That would be healthier in order to look for more upside momentum, and that would reflect this flattening area here for the same period of time. So, and then we do have a nice rising cloud supporting more bullish activity in the going into the middle of the year. Let's look at crude oil. So I still have this inverse head and shoulders that you guys have been looking at over and over again, guys and gals have been looking at over and over again. There's no reason to think that that is not still a potential outcome. I had CNBC, please forgive me, on the other day, and I heard that some pundit or hedge person of some sort was looking for a really big move to the upside in crude, and maybe they're seeing a similar thing. I didn't stick around to find out why or who it was or anything like that, because honestly I really don't care about other people's analysis, sorry to say, but you know, if this inverse head and shoulders pattern was to actually come to fruition, we're looking at a significant move up to 76, 72 area. But note this blue area here is what's called in Ichimoku terms a gap window, marking this gap area from way back here in 2015. And that is still acting as resistance here. Let me zoom in so we can see even, oops, I kind of messed that up. Bear with me. We can see this nice flag action. We're holding what I drew to be the neckline, which is positive for more upside, and putting in close over the Tenkan-sen every week. Even though, you know, we've been trading in an extremely tight range, pretty frustrating for many crude traders, but there's no reason to think that we can't see more upside here as long as we stay above the Tenkan-sen on a closing basis, and also above my neckline, which happens to be around 52.40 at this point. I'm going to still be looking for that potential for that measured move to the upside on crude. If we do get a pullback, you know, we always do have support at the Tenkan-sen at 52.98. Let's look at silver. Silver is still inside the cloud, so still neutral in Ichimoku terms. Last week we did put in a spinning top type candle. The new candle is a little nubbin above the Kijun Sen. Hasn't invalidated the potential for a trend change to the downside. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let me actually zoom in a little bit less because I think it's important to take a peek at this red line here. This red line here is known as the Chikou span. That is reflecting price action time shifted 26 periods into the past. The fact that the Chikou is over the Kijun Sen resistance is significant here. It's not being impeded by it, so it could go higher until it starts banging in into stuff up here, bottoms of the candles, which would actually coincide with the shape, the contour of the cloud as well. You can sort of see that type, same shape. So it's going to be important to see whether this weekly candle can close above or below the Kijun Sen. And here at this point at 1795 is where that's located right now. It's over that right now at 18. I've been having pretty good luck myself, sort of shorting the 1805 area, but you know that may not continue. But if we do, you know, trade back under that 1795 level, there is definitely a chance for potential sideways action below that inside the cloud. But you know, basically, all in all, price action is neutral at the moment for silver on the weekly time frame. Let's look at gold. Gold similar to silver, except that it isn't currently above the Kijun Sen. Last week's candle was a spinning top doji type candle. Also failed to close above the Kijun Sen inside the cloud. You note that the Kijun Sen, this pink line here, is above the Tenkan Sen. That is considered a bear cross. Bear cross occurred right here, right before this huge solid candle came all the way down almost to test the top of the cloud. So keep an eye on that 1240.90 level, which is the Kijun Sen inside the neutral cloud on gold. It's important if you want to be bullish for gold to get a close above that that level. I also have some fibs on here, and you notice that we have a 61.8 at 1249.40. That's seeming to have been, you know, been in play, acting as support here, and acting as resistance, although untested resistance thus far. So that also, that 1249.40 level could also be potential resistance to the upside here as well. If we do sell, we do have nice support at the bottom of the cloud at 1211.50. And if we break down below the cloud, then we have support at the Tenkan Sen currently at 1189.70. Let's look at some bonds. Let's look at the 30-year Treasury bonds. ZB is actually managing to stay above the Tenkan Sen. The Tenkan Sen is starting to curve up. I don't know if you trade bonds, I hope you've been looking at the Bund also. Bund was pretty showing some bullish progress last week as well. But it's really important if you're trying to buy any kind of dip on treasuries here, that we stay above the Tenkan Sen, because if we do start trading below the Tenkan Sen, then we could definitely come down and retest lows or even make a new low. So keep an eye on that Tenkan Sen. It's currently at 151.03. You see there's a lot of topping tails in this area going up to like the 153.30 area. In fact, I've been lazy and I haven't drawn this gap window here, which is obviously providing some resistance here, as I was mentioning on the prior chart where we had on the crude chart where we had the gap window. Also, gap windows do act as support and or resistance. So it's going to be really important if you want to be bullish on bonds that we do break above and put in a close above this gap window. Close this open body gap here. Let's look at ZN. ZN is still maintaining above the Tenkan Sen on its own little Tenkan Sen. So we do have support down here at 124, 105, and resistance. We do have a similar situation with a gap window on the 10-year treasury is as well. Boom. So we're going to have to get above this, let's see, that was 125.080 in order to proceed higher on the 10-year. Let's look at the dollar yen. Very important. Dollar yen has been just moving sideways here, and it's been contained by the Tenkan-sen to the upside. You can see that last week we tested let's see if we test, the high was 114.95 and the Tenkan-sen's at 115.09. So we didn't quite test the Tenkan-sen, but we came pretty darn close and got rejected from it. So there's obviously a lot of sellers coming in at the Tenkan-sen above on the dollar yen. It's possible that we could come up there and retest again. Otherwise, we're looking at a range between the Tenkan-sen and the cloud. And then if we break below the cloud, which is currently at around, let's see, I'm going to guess like 111.33, then we could trade down to the Kijun-sen, which is currently at 109.36 or thereabouts. Let's look at another way of looking at the dollar, the DX contract. You see a similar situation in that we are in a range between a flat Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen below, and this gap window here as well. So if we do trade higher, we can look at potential resistance up at that 101.50 level. Let's look at a couple stock charts. Let's look at Apple. Apple's just going crazy to the upside. New all-time highs. We could even look at the monthly for some context. You know, hard to argue with that. You know, just a beautiful uptrend. What can I say? We are definitely overbought on the weekly time frame, and Apple often does correct when it does hit overbought, but it often hits overbought frequently. Hasn't done it in a while, but back in the old days it used to hit overbought relatively frequently, then pull back a little bit and blast higher. We're really extended above the Tenkan-sen and the cloud here. The Tenkan-sen is only down at 125.52, however, so we could get a $10 correction in Apple and then or a little sideways action, and then a little sideways action, and then move higher, depending on what the rest of the broader market does, of course. Let's look at Tesla. So Tesla, I've been reading the Twitter stream on Tesla, which it's just like, I mean, it's hilarious, really, because, well, I'm not going to go into it. It's just like, I mean, everybody is like a master trader when it comes to trading Tesla. Everybody's right, and everybody's giving all this great advice. But what happened last week with Tesla is it just got overbought and corrected, period. Sorry for all my fibs there. I do trade Tesla, so my analysis has been precise on this. I was expecting this pullback, and I did buy puts. I did post that on Twitter because I am also an expert on trading Tesla. I'm just kidding. I did actually buy the IPO in Tesla, held it for a long time. It was a very disturbing stock to have to hold on. I eventually dumped it. Regret it. I wish I still had it from the IPO days, but it wasn't that easy. So, especially after 2008. We do have a potential bearish type gravestone type candle setting up here, and we could potentially pull back even further towards the Tenkan-sen, which is currently at 243.62. But overall, Tesla is fully bullish in Ichimoku terms on the weekly time frame. Let's actually just take a peek at the daily. If you're still with me, you can deal with just another moment or two. So, because this is kind of important, if you do trade Tesla, you might want to know. So the daily Tenkan-sen is at 271.79, and we closed last week's candle at 272.23. So we did actually technically close above the Tenkan-sen, the daily Tenkan-sen. which portends that we could actually just continue higher here. We did work off the overbought RSI in those those 2 days of selling. It got a little bit sketchy here, but we did close. The fact that we did close above the Tenkan-sen suggests that we could actually just power on higher, so keep that in mind. And this seems like I'm getting a little bit long, and I appreciate if you made it all the way through here. Thanks a lot for watching my video. If you're interested in being notified when I do release new videos on YouTube, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel below. I'd really like to hear from you guys. I haven't been getting a lot of feedback on my videos, and even if just one person says they appreciate me doing this, it makes me more inspired to do it, to continue doing it. I know if you've been watching these for a long time, you probably don't get inspired to say like, oh, hey, CloudChartist, thanks for the video, or make any comments. But it's really nice to hear from people, so feel free to leave me some comments in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter. I always want to hear from you guys. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day off, and I'll catch you next week.